source of influencers.
Do you regret anything in your life?
Yeah, I do. I regret that I did not take full advantage of the opportunity I had as being a student athlete in college. I didn't finish my college degree. And I regret that. That's my biggest regret. I should have finished my education. But in all fairness, in the early 80s, it was all about, you're here for football, you're not here to go to school. So as long as we're putting 60,000 people in the stadium in University of Arizona, it was okay. You know, so it was different. Nowadays, they're getting more and more, they've been a lot better with it, about student athletes getting their degree. But when I was growing up in the 80s, it wasn't important. What was more important was that the stadium is full with 60,000+ fans. So my biggest regret is that I did not finish my college degree in psychology, for sure.
But why? Because
I aspired to be a professional football player, American football player. And you know, as you're in high school and you're somewhat good in football, there's always people around to remind you only 1% make it to the NFL. And I was bound and determined that I was going to be that 1%, along with, I guess, 100 million other kids in America. I was going to be that 1%. And that's not reality, you know. I had many people around me trying to tell me, get your education. You always need your education. You got to fall back on that education. But I didn't believe. I was hard-headed. I didn't listen. All that mattered to me was football. And to be honest with you, when I was finished with high school, if it wouldn't have been football, I wouldn't have went on to college. I didn't like school. So it was a little different for me. But when I had that opportunity, it was a scholarship and they paid for me to be there for 4 years. I should have took full advantage of it, got my college degree. You know, nowadays, them degrees are $100,000, $200,000. I could have got it for free.
But if you had it, maybe you wouldn't be here.
True. So it's a little hindsight 2020. You know,
where do you think you were then?
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, yeah.
What should have happened, or what would have happened if you had it?
You know what? I really don't even know, man. I really don't know. And I've thought about that, honestly. I have thought about that, but I really don't know. I came from a situation, my mom could not control me. You know, I was a bad little boy. And I was a confused boy.
Why were you bad? What did you do?
Well, I mean, I was just in the gangs and running the streets and stuff like that. And my mom was a single mother, the typical classic situation in America. The mom raising the black children, the father gone. My mom working 1, 2 jobs. She didn't have no time. She couldn't be around. And I was running the streets. And American football changed my thought process to where, hey, maybe I can, maybe there is life after this. And so one year I was in the newspaper, and it really surprised me that I was in the newspaper for high school football in Tucson at Sunnyside High School. And then I had a man come into my life, kind of like a big brother, you know, situation, a mentor, a black man, a Muslim, that he saw that I was pretty good at receiver, and he used to play receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, and he came from the University of Arizona, same place, and he said, I can help you, you know, get off these streets and focus more on this as opposed to that. And so he would come pick me up after school and take me, and we would just me and him, and go throw and catch for hours. Then he would drop me off at home, and I'd be too tired to go run around on the streets, because he's been running me with patterns, running pass routes in the evening. So he changed my life in a way that he gave me a hope that there's something else out there other than just being a little hood rat, you know, running around in the neighborhood of South Tucson. The only thing that was left was prison or death. And so he was a big part in me getting my scholarship to the University of Arizona. Was this man named Jabari Jihad. He's still alive. He's in Tucson. Whenever I go home, I always see him. He saved my life, for sure. So that's kind of what happened to him. American football saved my life. So on a little funny way, right now I feel like I'm giving back, to the sport. And I want to be able to give back as much as I can to the sport because of what it had given me, and because there's no doubt in my mind I would not have be where I am now, without it. There's most of my friends are not in the best situations that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Where's your father? You don't know him?
My father passed away at a very, let me see, I guess it was in 2001. He was alcoholic. And my mother divorced my father when I was 8 years old, and he never came around again. And then when I became a quote unquote football star at the University of Arizona, then I got a phone call from him. Hey, this is your father. And I was like, what? I don't even know who the hell you are, man. What you mean, my father? My father is my mother. Herschella is my father. And so I really didn't know him, man. He was an alcoholic. And then my aunt called me one day and said, your father passed away yesterday. And I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, you're going to come to the funeral? I'm like, for what? I don't even know him. And so she flew me over to LA. I went to the funeral, went to the thing, and then flew back to Arizona. I was like, pfft. Unfortunately, he wasn't in my life. So I try to make sure, because of that, I make sure that with my children now that they know who I am, and I try to be as much as I can in their lives. I have one in America, I have two in England, and I have one over here in Holland. So it's kind of hard to stay in, all girls, all beautiful girls. The one in America is 30 plus years old, so she's a young woman and married. And yeah, I try to make sure I don't just completely disappear like my father did. Especially with the one that's here, that's my girl.
Yeah.
I had a child 8 years ago. Well, child was born 8 years ago. I was finally mature enough to raise a child. My other three, I wasn't mature at all. I tried to be in their lives as best as I could, but American football was my number one. So this God, Buddha, Allah, whatever's out there, has given me this last chance with this daughter here to go out like a man. So I'm going to take full advantage of it.
Do you have a religion?
Do I have a religion? I believe, if I am going to believe, I believe in Islam. I believe in Islam.
Why?
I believe in Islam because it's discipline. And to me, it makes more sense from what I've learned and what I've been around. Again, this guy, Jabari Jihad, is his name, the one that when I was young and brought me out of the gangs, he introduced me to the Nation of Islam in America and going to Juma prayer on Friday and things like this. And just being around these people and listening to these people and this peace and this beauty of it, it fit. It fit for me. I was raised a typical scream and shout church, Baptist church, ooh, hallelujah, la, 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 screaming, and I never fit in. I never felt like, what is, it doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem for me. So when Jabari, and it might have been the time in my life where I was very like a sponge, able to be influenced, and I just felt at peace with the Nation of Islam, the discipline and the truth, and just by the way it's written and everything. When people ask me this question, they always, I'm very skeptical in saying it, because if you say the Nation of Islam, unfortunately in these days they say terrorist, and you got to understand, just like there's so many different kinds of Christians, there are many different kinds of Muslims, and some may not believe exactly the same as the others. But if you take the Quran itself, it's the same. And if I was to have to claim or it would be the Nation of Islam.
Follow the Moti on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat.